W5FC.
I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is KF5PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the # break break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control, that would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list, and remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, a featured constellation or object or topic, recent astronomical discoveries, space exploration and space history, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. And we'll try to get to all of those parts if time allows. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you will do the check-in honors, please.
Very good, Miss Billy, and thank you for doing the net this evening. This is KE5ICX. My name's Tom. I'll be alternate net control this evening and will be taking check-ins. So we'll start with low-power short-time check-ins. If you would come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low-power short-time. Okay, we'll go to general check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. General check-ins.
This is November 5 Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving, and I have National Space Society and news from the world of amateur radio and science items.
This Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda and DeSoto.
This is Kilo 5, Alpha, November, Papa, Allen in Dallas.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform David, St. Paul, Texas. This is Alpha 5 Alpha Hotel Robert and Richardson. This is Kilo India 5 Echo Bravo Oscar Michael in Plano.
All right, let me go ahead and get those check-ins. I've got N5BB, Bill, over in Irving, and Roger, you've got some traffic for us this evening, WB50ZL. Miss Brenda in DeSoto, K5ANP, Allen in Dallas, KG5EIU, David in St. Paul, AA5AH, Robert in Richardson, KI5EBO, Michael in Plano. I'll take additional check-ins now. Please come with your call sign, phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey, Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
All right, well, we're starting out a little full, but that's okay. I've got KG5WVL, James over in Carrollton. Please switch over to Echolink. I'll take additional rounds here in a minute. Echolink only. Please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. If you are unable or don't have voice, just let me know in the chat box that you're out there. So go ahead, Echolink only.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Norman, Oklahoma.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo Lima, Bill, Nashville, Tennessee.
Kilo India 5, Bravo November Papa, Luis, Fort Worth.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J, near Weatherford.
Let me acknowledge echoing. I got K5JDW, John in Norman, Oklahoma. K5ZBL, Bill in Nashville this evening. KI5BNP, Louis in Fort Worth. I've got KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. Let's see, there's a few other folks on there if you would like to check in. Over on Echolink, go ahead and put your call sign out, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Please come now.
Kilo India 5, Delta Sierra Foxtrot, Logan in Frisco.
I do have KI5DSF, Logan, and I didn't quite get where you were transmitting from. If you want to throw it in the chat box, that would be nice. I've got N5IMS. That would be, I should know who that is. Oh, JJ in Carrollton, of course. Okay. I knew, I'm just losing my mind. So I've got you checked in. And that's it as far as I can tell. Oh, DSS. Oh, Logan is in Frisco. Thank you, Logan. Thank you. I appreciate that. This is KE5ICX, alternate net control for tonight's Skynet. I'll take check-ins any mode. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
Golf Uniform Sierra, it's Gus, far northeast Dallas.
Hey, I have W5GUS, Gus, over in far northeast Dallas, one of our regulars. All right, let's see here. I think I'll go ahead and ask if there's any general announcements this evening, anything that anybody would like to bring to the net. And Bill, I'll give the net over to you in just a moment. Anyone with announcements or bulletins they'd like to bring to the net, please come with your call sign.
N5BB, as I said, I got some announcements. I'm not sure if they're general or not.
Very good. I'm sorry, Billy. I just fell into NCS mode automatically, so I should have given it back to Billy. But Bill, go ahead, and then I will return the net to our net control. So go ahead, Bill.
Okay. Do you want the National Space Society, World of Science, and the amateur radio items now, or later?
We'll do them at that point where there's a pause. That'll give people a chance to assemble up as well. So whatever you have for now, and then the National Space Society on that segment. How's that?
I think you said you wanted me to give the World of Amateur Radio and Science items now. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Just a moment. I got to pull this back up again. This is N5BB. So, from the world of amateur radio. Right now, the sun is very quiet on the side pointing toward Earth that we can see. There's no visual sunspots, and there haven't been for, I think, about 10 days or 2 weeks. So the solar flux is low, which means high-frequency propagation is bad. The maximum usable frequency is rather low. But there's no flares, so there's no disturbances. But again, the higher HF band should be pretty dead. The flux should improve in a couple of weeks. There's an active area in the sun, and as it rotates in the view, in a couple of weeks from now, things should get better. Another item, ARRL headquarters, their internet systems are going to be down tomorrow night. So Central Daylight Time, tomorrow night about 11 p.m. for maybe 4 hours, they think. The Logbook of the World and some other key systems run by ARRL will be down for maintenance, upgrades, whatever. Email should work, though. For digital communications, there's a new format called FT4. It is coming soon. It's designed for contests. FT8 is very slow. It takes about 12.6 seconds for a transmission. This new FT4 format is 2.5 times faster. Only takes 4.5 seconds for a transmission. It uses 4-tone FSK, frequency shift keyed modulation, at about 23 baud data rate. The occupied bandwidth is only 90 hertz. Download packages, this is Joe Taylor software, so download packages for WSJT-X, the new version, should be posted on Monday, April the 29th. This is an experimental release candidate. It'll time out on June the 7th. It's not expected for there to be versions available that are reliable for Field Day 2019, but a general release is expected in mid-July, so it will be coming. European Conference of Postal and Telecommunications Administrations, a real mouthful. The abbreviation is CEPT. Committee SE24 is considering wireless power transfer and transmission. The acronym for that is WPT. And there's a variant of it for electric vehicles, WPT-EV. And also for generic applications like charging your cell phone or powering other things in your house. There's some standards that involve EMI from the systems. The problem that these systems are normally down in the 100 kilohertz region. So the problem isn't that the direct signal will bother amateur radio communications. It's harmonics and spurious things put out by these devices. Because there have to be very high power, even a very, very, very small amount of leakage on the harmonic could severely disrupt amateur radio equipment in the near area. So it's important that the standards be good enough that radio receivers are protected. The IARU, the International Amateur Radio Union, is working with that committee to try to improve those standards. So there's been some things happening about that recently. So when you look at things like your American Radio Relay League, you wonder where your dues go. Some of it is to keep the IARU working on these things. These are international regulations and will affect, FCC and European Union EMI standards. And it'll affect, whether we can use radio in a few years. If too many of these interference sources are out there, HF radio will be unusable. So, this is very important. Then, moving to Texas, the Bryan Broadcasting Corporation has licenses for 4 commercial broadcast AM, 5 commercial broadcast FM, and 6 commercial FM translators in Central Texas. The Bryan Broadcasting Corporation, which happens, the acronym is BBC, but anyway, they have petitioned the FCC to allow stations to use all digital AM standard broadcast band transmissions. Currently, AM stations have to transmit regular AM, and they can throw digital HD things on top of that, but they must transmit AM. But this proposal is to allow stations to only transmit the digital HD. HD radio receivers would be able to receive such transmissions, but legacy AM receivers would just hear noise. So this is a major kind of consideration. It's not clear what the FCC will do, but it's a proposal just been put up. Then, from the world of science, there's a new class of piezoelectric materials which was developed over the last few years, and some really recent research indicates that adding trace amounts of the element samarium can dramatically improve them. Piezoelectric materials are very important. They're used in microphones, in some speakers. They're used in the crystals and resonators, which control the frequency of radio transmitters and computers, and a number of other sensor kind of applications, sensor and actuators. So improving these piezoelectric materials is really a big deal. On some space-related things, the Event Horizon Telescope has taken the first ever image of a black hole, and that was occurring over the last 2 weeks, and there's still more, articles coming out about that. So lots more science coming out on that imaging of a black hole. Lots more studies of the results. And there is some improvement in quantum computing research. They've now got some phonon-mediated quantum state entanglement. Phonons, you can think of like sound. It's vibrations. Things which move between atoms and molecules based on movement, on vibrations. And they've now been able to get some amount of quantum entanglement using phonons, which may be very useful for quantum computers. That's all I got, Tom, in 5EB.
All right, very good. Thank you, Bill, for all those announcements. I'm going to send this back to our net control, KF5PDS from KE5ICX. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom, and thank you, Bill, for those great announcements. And welcome, everyone, to Skynet. All right, we'll see if we have anyone else with any general announcements for this evening's net. So if you have any announcements, they could be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have any announcements, please come now with your call sign. Not hearing any, so I'll go ahead with some announcements of my own. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com, and this net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT net, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas net is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, which is 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC also hosts several nets on Monday nights. First Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's net, so this is all about food. So if you have any recipes to share, have a question about food, an anecdote, want to talk about an interesting food, bring it to the Ham Fixin's net. The second Monday of the month is MCOM 101, which is Emergency Communications. Drop by on the third Monday of the month for a second helping of Ham Fixin's net. And fourth Monday of the month is GeekNet. On GeekNet, we share everything about geeky books, movies, news of the weird, brain teasers, You name it, anything. If it's geeky, we'll share it on GeekNet. And occasionally there is a Fifth Monday, which we have a Fifth Monday surprise net. So there's been everything from loads of rounds of Jeopardy, which have been very fun, to Truth or Lies April Fools, to Christmas Thunderdome, sharing best and worst Christmas presents of the year. And I think there was also a Build Your Own Story where they went around and in a round robin and just added to a story and just created the story on the air. So you name it, you just never know what you're going to find on the Fifth Monday Surprise Net. So tune in. It's always a pleasant surprise. On Saturdays, the Night of Nets, we have TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. And, of course, at 9 p.m. we have Skynet. The ARRL Net, National Traffic System Training Net, is every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and all are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And don't forget, following Skynet tonight at 10:30 p.m. will be the Afterglow Movie Net. If you're new to the net, what we do there is we choose a movie to watch during the week at our convenience, and then we come back the next Saturday and we discuss the movie. We talk about the plot. We talk about characters. We talk about special effects, music, anything, element about that movie that we want to share. So it's always a lively discussion. So at this time, I will hand the net briefly back to Tom, alternate net control, KE5ICX, if you will tell us tonight's Afterglow info.
Oh, I'll be so happy to. This is KE5ICX. The year was 2019. Deckard was hot on the trail of replicants who had jumped ship and come to Earth. L.A. was their destination. He knew he had to work fast. At the next table was Detective Charles Gaddis. He, too, was looking to solve a crime. Without the resources of the Blade Runner unit, he'd have to work more slowly and find out who was methodically killing people who hated the TV show Space 1999. There must be a reason. Of course, most of us already knew the reason. Gaddis just never put 2 and 2 together and got 7, like the rest of us. Join us for the next Afterglow movie tonight at 10:30 p.m. Anon from 2018. Yeah, just last year. Be seeing you. Back to you, Net Control, KE5ICS.
Great, thank you, Tom. And you can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. So this is KF5PDS, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up in our program is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So if there's anyone on frequency that would like to talk about TAS, please come now with your call sign. Not hearing anyone, so I'll go ahead and give some information about Texas Astronomical Society. The meetings are held on the 4th Friday of every month, except November. It's held on the 3rd Friday due to Thanksgiving, and there's usually not a meeting in December. The meetings are held at the University of Texas at Dallas campus in Richardson. The meetings begin at 7:30 p.m. in the Science Learning Center, building SLC on the campus map. And it's important that you park in lots H, I, or J, as parking anywhere else on campus could result in a ticket. You can go to www.utdallas.edu for a campus map. And the meetings can include programs presented by members or guest speakers and a slideshow of the current constellation of the month. And you can find out more about Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas by going to their website at www.texasastro.org. Texas Astronomical Society also hosts observing parties every Saturday night beginning at sunset and concluding around 10 p.m. Central Time. Each week is a different location for observing, so make sure you get complete details for the Saturday night you wish to attend. Go to, again, www.texasastro.org, select the calendar for a pull-down on complete details. Normally tonight's star party is at the Shores Park, Stars on the Rock in Rockwall. I'm not sure if that was a go tonight. It was kind of cloudy today, so I didn't see whether it was go, no-go. First Friday of the month is Stargazer Star Party in Spring Park in Garland. Second Saturday is at Frisco Commons Park in Frisco. Third Saturday of the month is at J.W. Williams Park in Cedar Hill. And fourth Saturday of the month is held at the Shores Park in Rockwall. And this week going on is the Texas Star Party, which is a big gathering, I think of about 700 stargazers from all over the world convene down at Fort Davis, Texas, and do a week of spectacular stargazing. So if there's anyone on frequency that would like to talk about the Texas Star Party and what you've been looking at, and also, if we have some third-party traffic, if there's kids or non-hams that are there at Texas Star Party that would like to comment, please, come now with your call sign, get the third party on there. Let's see if we can hear from some folks from the Texas Star Party. If you're there, please come now with your call sign. Not hearing anyone, but we'll keep an eye on Echolink too, because sometimes folks at TSP, they will get on Echolink. So we'll keep watch for any Texas Star Party goers, and if they're on, we'll get them on at some point if they'd like to make any comments. All right, up next is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I'll call again on Bill N5BB if you will give us your National Space Society events news.
BB. National Space Society May meeting will be on the second Sunday of May. That is May the 12th, Sunday afternoon, 3:30 p.m. at the Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183 in Irving, across the street from Irving Mall, southwest corner of Beltline and Highway 183. I do not yet know the topic for this meeting. Other National Space Society things coming up between now and then. A week from today, on May the 4th, there will be May the 4th Be With You. It's a joke. There's a Star Trek thing going on. There's a Fort Worth Science, not Star Trek, Star Wars. There's a Star Wars event at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and Technology. So this is going on from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and Technology, 1600 Jindy Street, Fort Worth, Texas. This is just like a block away from the other major art museums there in Fort Worth. And National Space Society will have display tables, etc. And Ken Ruffin, who is currently the VP of the local North Texas Space Society group, will give 2 30-minute presentations. I plan to be there after lunch. I have a conflict, an immaterial conflict in the morning. So that's May the 4th, a week from... That was May the 4th, a week from today. Then the following Saturday, on May the 11th, there's a STEM Scouts event, the STEM Fest, at the UT Dallas Admissions and Visitor Center at 842 Loop Road, Southwest in Richardson. And that event will be from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. for STEM Scouts. And National Space Society plans to have an exhibit there also. And there's lots going on in manned spacecraft. manned space flight here this year, next year. So keep tuned to all the commercial things happening and NASA crew vehicle things, et cetera, et cetera. This is N5BB. That's all.
Great. Thank you very much, Bill. Yeah, that sounds like fun. Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you. So thanks again for that great announcement. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is NCS topic of the evening. So if you are new to this evening's net, on my turn, I usually have been doing an ongoing series of NASA analog missions. So we're making our way down the list of NASA analogs. So to start with, what is an analog mission? Well, an analog is a situation on Earth that produces effects on the body similar to those experienced in space, both physical and mental emotional. These studies help prepare us for long-duration missions. NASA is associated with at least 14 analog missions throughout the world. And tonight's mission that will be discussed is the Concordia analog mission. This mission is located in Antarctica. The environment is isolation, and it tests for a hostile environment. So brief description, Concordia is operated by the French Polar Institute and the Italian Antarctic Program. And many researchers use this facility for psychology, physiology, and medicine. Some crew members perform a winter over where they are part of the research lasting the entire winter. And research performed at Concordia includes glaciology, atmospheric studies, astronomy, human-related research, and some technologies. So this information can be found on the nasa.gov website and also on the esa.int/Concordia website. So those are the two websites where I am reporting my information from this evening. So the ESA website has some great articles, some of which I will relay to you, but you can always go to their website. Again, it's esa.int/Concordia. So Concordia Research Station in Antarctica is located on a plateau 3,200 meters above sea level, a place of extremes. Temperatures can drop to negative 80 degrees Celsius in the winter, with a yearly average temperature of about minus 50 degrees Celsius. As Concordia lies at the very southern tip of the Earth, the sun does not rise above the horizon in the winter and does not set in the summer. The crew must live without sunlight for 4 months of the year. The altitude and location mean that the air in Concordia is very thin and holds less oxygen. Venturing outside the base requires wearing layers of clothes and limits the time spent outdoors. During the harsh winter, no outside help can be flown in or reach the base over land. The crew have to solve any problems on their own. In addition, Concordia sits in the largest desert in the world. The air is extremely dry, so the crew suffer from continuously chapped lips and irritated eyes. No animals can survive in this region. Even bacteria find it hard coping with the extreme temperatures. The nearest human beings are stationed some 600 kilometers away at the Russian Vostok base, making Concordia more remote than the International Space Station. In the great open landscape covered in darkness, colors, smells, and sounds are almost non-existent, adding to the sense of loneliness. The isolation and sensory deprivation can wreak havoc on crew members' biological clock, making it hard to get a good night's sleep. Despite all these hardships, up to 16 people spend around a year at a time living in Concordia in the name of science. Far removed from civilization, the white world of Antarctica offers researchers the opportunity to collect data and experiment like no other place on Earth. The base is so unlike anything found elsewhere in the world that ESA participates in the Italian-French base to research future missions to other planets, using the base as a model for extraterrestrial planets. On arrival at Concordia, a period of adjustment is required similar to astronauts in space. The high altitude, extreme cold, dry air, and new sensations can overwhelm the human brain as it adjusts to the new environment. Physical changes such as hypoxia or lack of oxygen, chapped lips and sore throats never go away and are a constant nuisance to people living in Concordia. Humidifiers in bedrooms help against the dry air, and exercise is one way to adapt to the low levels of oxygen because it helps the body produce more red blood cells. The base consists of 2 towers connected by an enclosed walkway. Activities in the towers are separated into noisy and quiet. Spread over 3 levels, the restaurants, social rooms, gym, and workshops are in the noisy tower, whereas the laboratories, sleeping quarters, hospital, and radio rooms are in the quiet tower. The base is powered by 3 generators that supply electricity and heat to keep the negative 80 degrees Celsius temperatures at bay. The generators run in pairs with one available as backup. Out here, you don't want to run out of electricity or heating. The diesel that powers the generators itself needs to be heated to prevent it freezing. Water from washing and cooking is recycled as much as possible using a unit based on knowledge from ESA's life support team. For drinking and cooking, snow from a protected area is melted into water. As this water contains few minerals, the Concordia chef needs to take this into account when preparing meals. Scientific instruments are dotted around the base outside. One of the tallest towers in Antarctica stands proud about a kilometer away. It holds devices to measure atmospheric data such as wind speed and humidity. Many instruments observe the snow and ice to help calibrate Earth's observation satellites, including ESA's. Climbing the tower for maintenance or installing new equipment is not to be taken lightly. Climbing 40 meters to the top of the tower in sub-zero conditions with little oxygen requires determination and strong nerves. If the repair work requires removing gloves, remember that only a few seconds of exposure to the elements can cause frostbite. On the other hand, the view can be breathtaking. A seismic vault was excavated near the base that extends 15 meters under the snow and is used for experiments inside the Antarctic ice. A trapdoor leads down to a long tunnel. At the end of the tunnel is a series of ladders to the vault itself. It is bitterly cold beyond the trapdoor, and it gets worse venturing further into the vault. The air quickly mists up from breathing, so visibility is low. The vault's temperature is a very stable negative 59 degrees Celsius, making the environment not particularly suited to human beings and electrical equipment. Above ground, nearer to base, are many telescopes as well as 2 wooden platforms to observe the heavens. Wood is a very suitable material to build with in the cold expanse of Dome Sea, as no fungi that rot wood can survive. Concordia has its own airport in the form of a runway over 1.5 kilometers long. Tractors, bulldozers, skidoos, and other machinery are stored during the winter in a tunnel sheltered from the elements by a large pile of snow packed in front of the entrance. One excavator is kept outside during winter to clear the snow in the summer when temperatures and the sun rise once again. Life in Concordia can be divided into 4 seasons, even though the weather in Concordia hardly changes all year. The seasons in Concordia are linked to sunlight and routines. As the sun disappears completely during the winter, social events such as evening meals or birthday celebrations become important to help keep track of time. During the Antarctic summer, the base is awash with over 60 scientists and technicians performing science and maintenance in preparation for the winter. Many of the summer guests sleep in heated tents near Concordia Base. During this time, the sun never sets below the horizon and aircraft arrive on an almost daily basis. By February, all but a handful of people will have left, leaving a skeleton crew on the base to fend for themselves. The base can hold 16, but needs a technical manager, chef, doctor, communications technician, plumber, mechanic, and an electrician to function safely. Empty beds can be filled by scientists of all disciplines. This is a period of adjustment for the crew, getting to know each other and preparing for the onset of winter. Winter proper arrives shortly after Easter with over 4 months of darkness, cold temperatures, and no chance of rescue in an emergency. Life becomes very structured, centered on social moments such as daily meals. Crew members can phone internationally and internet is available, but many start to feel disconnected from their contacts at home. Once past the longest night in the world, things start to get brighter as the sun rises near the horizon. The first sunrise is always a remarkable moment. From then on, the winter crews start preparing for summer and the return of the summer scientists. The base is cleaned thoroughly, machinery is serviced, tents are erected and heated, and the runway is cleared of snow. Extensive work is required to welcome the new arrivals back to the base at the end of the world. Around November, the first aircraft can land safely at Concordia Base, bringing with it the welcome cargo of fresh fruit and food. Adapting to the arrival of new faces is not as easy as it might seem. After living around 9 months in isolation in a tight group, it can take some getting used to the new arrivals and their different practices. So why would anyone want to live in one of the coldest places on Earth with no hope of rescue during the harsher months? Because of its seclusion, Concordia offers scientists a unique location to conduct research far from civilization in many disciplines. Human beings are everywhere, and studying Earth's climate will always be influenced by the presence of people in the area. Concordia, one of the most secluded research bases in the world, offers an ideal place to study the atmosphere free from pollution. The research is giving insights into how the world's population is changing Earth's climate. Concordia is used for glaciology research. Analyzing the Antarctic plateau reveals clues to our past as chemical elements are trapped and frozen in the ice. This research is continuing the work of the EPICA project that drilled 3 kilometers into the ice to study the chemicals. Observing how the ice plateau shifts and moves is helping to understand the movement of ice in Antarctica. Looking further afield, astronomers dream of stable, cloud-free observatories far from artificial lights. Space telescopes such as Hubble and closer to home, sites such as Concordia help to fulfill this dream. The thin atmosphere, clear skies, and zero light pollution around Concordia make it an ideal place for observing the universe. The very southern location of Antarctica also makes it ideal for studying Earth's magnetic field as it hits the surface at near vertical. Many instruments have been installed and more are planned around the research base, searching the heavens across a multitude of wavelengths. Delving deeper, Concordia is looking at the inside movements of Earth. To understand how Earth's core behaves, seismologists have created a network of detectors around the world. Data from Antarctica were sparse, however. A seismograph at Concordia measures movement, and the research base is part of the international network of seismograph stations. The inhospitable conditions around Concordia make living there similar to living on another planet. The base is an ideal place to study the effects on small, multicultural teams isolated for long periods in an extreme hostile environment. ESA sponsors a medical research doctor in Concordia every winter to study the long-term effects of isolation. Understanding how our bodies and minds adapt to extreme environments will help to overcome the challenges of long flights aboard the International Space Station and beyond. The Antarctic environment places inhabitants under continuous stress and poses challenges to all involved. ESA is looking at how the Concordia crew performs, in particular regarding sleep. Lack of regular day and night cycles and irregular sleeping patterns are factors to contend with in Concordia, just as in spaceflight. With no sunlight, social commitments such as breakfast and dinner become important indicators of when to sleep and when to stay awake. How does crew performance and social interactions suffer as morale sinks, sleep is disturbed, and stress becomes a factor of daily life? Questionnaires to assess mood, instruments to monitor sleep patterns, as well as blood sampling to chart bodily reactions are common practice for volunteers at Concordia. What measures can be taken to keep the crew working together as a team and performing optimally? ESA is looking to answer this question in many areas, from regular exercise to ubiquitous computer aids and sleep-inducing lights. Concordia is even used to research how suitable materials are for space travel. Aside from the effects of isolation and sensory deprivation, Concordia has another trick up its sleeve. The thin air holds less oxygen than at sea level. The crew live in a permanent state of hypoxia or lack of oxygen. Designing space missions with lower atmospheric pressure is easier for engineers. Similar to commercial aircraft, spacecraft and planetary structures can be lighter if the internal air pressure is lowered. In addition, less time is needed to prepare physically for a spacewalk. Concordia crew members are generally not adapted to living at high altitude with little oxygen. Observing how their bodies adapt gives good indication on how astronauts will adapt to spaceflight far from Earth. Living at Concordia is the closest thing on Earth to interplanetary exploration. Studying the effects of isolation here is preparing the ESA for the real thing, a mission to Mars. So there's my report on the Concordia mission. And K5JDW, John, I saw your comment over in the chat window saying, I bet they appreciate ham contacts. Yes, sir, I am certain that they do. And I wonder if anyone has ever contacted Antarctica, it may not Concordia, but if there's anybody on frequency that has ever made a ham contact in Antarctica, I'd love to hear your experience. So if anyone has made an Antarctic contact, please come now with your call sign and tell us about it. Okay, yeah, John said usually in the winter. It's like I know, maybe not right now, but if anybody in the past has made a contact, it would be cool to hear about it. Just curious if anybody had that experience. Again, if anybody has ever contacted Antarctica and would like to give their recount of how the contact went, please come now with your call sign. I'll give you one more chance. Sounds like somebody's trying to contact, but they're not hitting the repeater solidly enough. Whoever calling station, if you could try and increase power or improve your position, maybe you can hit us a little more clear. We're just getting static on you. All right, at this time, I guess, Tom, I'll go ahead and turn the net to you, KE5ICX from KF5PDS. You'll see if we have any additional check-ins, and then after that, if you will do the was up, if Chaz is out, then I'll let you read that article, and if you'll first see if we have any check-ins, that'd be great. This is KF5PDS to KE5ICX.
Okay, Billy, I'll do exactly that. I've got, first off, let me get some from the last round that have come in since during your presentation. I got KB5 PVT, Papa Victor Tango Ken, He's over on Echolink. I acknowledge him. And I have over on Facebook John S. over in Austin, Texas. We know him from his from Facebook. So he's not a ham, but he is or was listening in. He's actually working right now, so he's cheating. He should be working. John, stop. Okay, I'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign name where you're transmitting from.
Claudia Mesquite.
Kilo Lima 5 Echo. I'm sorry. Let me do that again. Kilo India 5 Echo Lima Papa Vernon. I'm in East Dallas.
Maybe we lost you all together. I'll look you up. I know I've got you on an earlier list, but I've got Clay over in Mesquite. Anyone else who'd like to check in, please come now.
This is Kilo India 5, Charlie Delta Foxtrot, KI 5 CDF, Matthew out of Ferris, Texas.
Kilo India 5 Echo Lima Papa Vernon, East Dallas.
Hey, I've got KI5CDF, Matthew over in Paris, Texas. Welcome, Matthew. Thanks for joining us this evening. And then I've got KI5ELP, Vernon over in East Dallas. I was told I doubled with you. I got you this time around. Thank you for trying. And this is KE5ICX, net control for tonight's Skynet. Okay, for what's up, I don't have the comedic chops quite of Chaz. However, I do have one of his sources for information, although he's a pretty darn smart guy. He doesn't need this. From earthsky.org/tonight. You can go there every night of the week and get information that's interesting involving amateur astronomy or astronomy in general. So let's see here. I don't know what's happened to the video. I got a little problem with the desktop, but it is showing up. You'll see if you go to the website as well, the w5fc.org website, you'll see all of the links to tonight's stuff. This one is what's up. So southwest to west April evenings, there's a chart up. It shows Orion and Orion's belt pointing towards Sirius. Amateur astronomers use star hopping to go from stars and constellations they know to ones that they don't know yet. First, look for noticeable patterns on the sky's dome. One very easy pattern to find at this time of the year is, of course, the constellation Orion the Hunter. You'll find it descending in the west after sunset. Orion is easy to find because it contains a very noticeable pattern of three medium bright stars in a short straight row. These stars represent Orion's belt. And you can find Orion, you can use it to star hop to Sirius, the sky's brightest star in the constellation Canis Major, which we talked about, I think it was last week. Orion and Sirius are dropping into the sun's glare at this time of the year, so be sure to look for them soon after the sun goes down. And that's how you come to know the constellations. You use what you've already learned and build outward to find new patterns. Of course, there's the classic one, and that is the stars in follow the Big Dipper to the North Star. I think everybody knows that one. But of course, you can always use it. It's the forward part of the Big Dipper that you see in the sky, and it points towards Polaris, or a pole star. All right. Okay. I guess I could go on. This next feature, Miss Carolyn is out right now. She's not feeling well, so I'm put something together this evening to fill her spot, which is featured constellation, object, or topic. So let me go ahead. I'll just go right into that, I guess, and then I'll send it back to net control. Let's see if I can get these pictures up. They're being a little bit of a problem this evening. Yeah, I guess I can. Okay, here we go. So planetary nebulae are abbreviated as PN or PNE, is a type of emission nebula consisting of an expanding, glowing shell of ionized gas ejected from the red giant stars late in their lives. The term planetary nebula is arguably a misnomer because they are unrelated to planets or exoplanets. The true origin of the term was likely derived from the planet-like round shape of these nebulae as observed by astronomers through early telescopes. And although the terminology is inaccurate, it is still used by astronomers today. The first usage may have occurred during the 1780s with the English astronomer William Herschel, who described these nebulae as resembling planets. However, as early as January of 1779, the French astronomer Antoine Darclier de Pauw described in his observations of the Ring Nebula, a very dim but perfectly outlined. It is as large as Jupiter and resembles a fading planet. All planetary nebulae form at the end of an intermediate mass star's lifetimes. They are a relatively short-lived phenomenon, lasting perhaps a few tens of thousands of years compared to the considerably longer phases of stellar evolution. Once all of the red giant's atmosphere has been dissipated, energetic ultraviolet radiation from the exposed hot luminous core, called the planetary nebula nucleus, or PNN, ionizes the ejected material. Absorbed ultraviolet light then re-energizes the shell of the nebulous gas around the central star, causing it to appear as a brightly colored planetary nebula. Planetary nebulae likely play a crucial role in the chemical evolution of the Milky Way by expelling elements into the interstellar medium from stars where those elements were created. Planetary nebulae are observed in more distant galaxies using useful information about their chemical abundance. Starting in the 1990s, the Hubble Space Telescope images revealed that many planetary nebulae have extremely complex and varied morphologies. Among one-fifth were roughly spherical, but the majority are not spherically symmetric. The mechanisms that produce such a wide variety of shapes and features are not yet well understood, but binary central stars, stellar winds, and magnetic fields may play a role. So that particular article actually came from one of the wikis talking about planetary nebulae. Does anybody have any comments before I send it back to net control? All right, I'll send this back to our net control, KF5PDS from KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. Yeah, we have a lot of people out at TSP, and hope well wishes to Miss Carolyn. So this is KF5PDS, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, at this time, we'll turn to recent astronomical discoveries. So I will ask Brenda, WB5OZL, if you'll give us the report, please. The net is yours.
you, Billy. This is WB50ZL. First article is entitled New Hubble Measurements Confirm Universe is Expecting Faster Than Expected. New measurements from NASA's Hubble Space Telescope confirm that the universe is expanding about 9% faster than expected based on its trajectory seen shortly after the Big Bang, astronomers say. The new measurements, published April 25th in the Astrophysical Journal Letters, reduce the chances that the disparity is an accident from 1 in 3,000 to only 1 in 100,000, and suggest that new physics may be needed to better understand the cosmos. This mismatch has been growing and has now reached a point that it is really impossible to dismiss as a fluke. This is not what we expected, said Adam Rees, Bloomberg Distinguished Professor of Physics and Astronomer at the Johns Hopkins University, Nobel laureate, and the project's leader. In this study, Rees and his SHOES, S-H-O-E-S, at supernovae HO for the equation of state. Team analyzed light from 70 stars in our neighboring galaxy, the Large Magellanic Cloud, with a new method that allowed for capturing quick images of these stars. The stars, called Cepheus variables, brighten and dim at predictable rates that are used to measure nearby intergalactic distances. The usual method for measuring the stars is incredibly time-consuming. The Hubble can only observe one star for every 90-minute orbit around Earth. Using their new method called dash, drift, and shift, the researchers used Hubble as a point-and-shoot camera to look at groups of Cepheus, thereby allowing the team to observe a dozen Cepheus in the same amount of time it would normally take to observe just one. With this new data, Rees and the team were able to strengthen the foundation of the cosmic distance ladder, which is used to determine distances within the universe and calculate the Hubble constant, a flow of how fast the cosmos expands over time. The team combined their Hubble measurements with another set of observations made by the Arcaria project, a collaboration between astronomers from institutions in Chile, the U.S., and Europe. This group made distance measurements to the Large Magellanic Cloud by observing the dimming of light as one star passes in front of its partner in eclipsing binary star systems. The combined measurements helped the SHOES team refine the Cepheus-2 brightness. With this more accurate result, the team could then tighten the bolts of the rest of the distance ladder that uses exploding stars called supernovae to extend deeper into space. As the team's measurements have become more precise, their calculation of the Hubble constant has remained at odds with the expected value derived from observations of the early universe's expansion by the European Space Agency's Planck satellite based on conditions Planck observed 380,000 years after the Big Bang. It is not just two experiments disagreeing, Rees explained. We are measuring something fundamentally different. One is a measurement of how fast the universe is expanding today as we see it. The other is a prediction based on the physics of the early universe and on measurements of how fast it ought to be expanding. If these values don't agree, there becomes a very strong likelihood that we're missing something in the cosmological model that connects the two eras. While Rees doesn't have an answer as to exactly why the discrepancy exists, he and the SHOES team will continue to fine-tune the Hubble constant with the goal of reducing the uncertainty to 1%. These most recent measurements brought the uncertainty in the rate of expansion down from 10% in 2001 to 5% in 2009, and now 1.9% in the present study. Article: Rapid destruction of Earth-like atmospheres by young stars Researchers show young stars rapidly destroy Earth-like nitrogen-dominated atmospheres. One of the most active and exciting questions in modern science is how abundant planets with Earth-like atmospheres and surface conditions, and therefore the potential for harboring life, are in the universe. Much recent research on this topic has focused on planets orbiting stars called M-dwarfs, which are smaller than our sun and are the most numerous types of star in our solar system. The primary driver of atmospheric losses to space is the central star that the planet is orbiting. Stars have strong magnetic fields, and these lead to the emission of high-energy X-ray and extraviolet radiation. These phenomena are known collectively as the star's activity. At young ages, stars have high levels of activity and therefore emit extremely large amounts of X-rays and ultraviolet radiation. As stars age, their activities decrease rapidly. Importantly, for planets orbiting M-dwarfs, while the activities of stars like the Sun decrease rapidly, after a few hundred million years, M-dwarfs often remain highly active for billions of years. The high-energy radiation is important because it is absorbed high in the atmosphere of a planet, causing the gas to be heated. For the Earth, sorry, can't upset everything here, and I've lost my place. Researchers based at the University of Vienna and the Space Research Institute of the OAW in Graz have calculated for the first time how rapidly an Earth-like atmosphere would be lost from a planet orbiting a very active young star. Their calculations have shown that extreme hydrodynamic losses of the atmosphere would take place, leading to an Earth-like atmosphere being entirely lost in less than 1 billion years, which for the evolution of the planet is almost instantaneous. The results have significant implications for the early evolution of the Earth and for the possibility of Earth-like atmospheres forming around M-dwarfs. For the Earth, the most likely explanation for why the atmosphere was not lost is that the early atmosphere was dominated by carbon dioxide, which cools the upper atmosphere by emitting infrared radiation to space, thereby protecting it from the heating of the early sun's high activity. The Earth's atmosphere could not have become nitrogen-dominated as it is today until after several 100 million years, when the sun's activity decreased to much lower levels. More dramatically, the results of this study imply that for planets orbiting M-dwarf, the planets can only form Earth-like atmospheres and surfaces after the activity levels of the stars decrease, which can take up to several billion years. More likely is that many of the orbits planeting M-dwarf stars to have very thin or possible no atmospheres. In both cases, life forming in such systems appears less likely than previously believed. Okay, these are both from ScienceDaily.com. I will send it back to Nat. This is WB50ZL.
Thank you very much. This is KF5PDF, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Thanks for bringing that exciting astronomical discoveries. All right, next up is space exploration and space history. So I will once again return the net to Tom, KE5ICX. Thank you for covering the net so extensively tonight. We really do appreciate all of our contributors, but thanks for stepping up to cover our folks that are out enjoying our Texas Star Party. So this is KF5PDF to KE5ICX.
Thank you, Ms. Doyle. I can hardly wait when they get back. All right, space exploration and space history. I've got a few articles here. It's not as extensive as Tony does, but I think you'll find it interesting. First is from NASA's InSight lander captures audio of the first likely quake on Mars. I believe this just happened, or was announced yesterday. So I've got a little video up there if you want to find that stuff. You can go to w5fc.org, and you can see it going, oops, uh-oh, maybe not. Well, that was interesting. All my screens went out for a second. Okay, hold on just a second. I know it's radio. You can't see me scream. Well, you could hear me scream. Okay, here we go. It says NASA's InSight lander has measured and recorded the first time ever a likely Mars quake. The faint seismic signal detected by the lander seismic experiments in the interior structure, or SIS, S-C-I-S instrument, was recorded on April 6th. The lander's 128th Martian day or so. This is the first recorded trembling that appears to have come from inside the planet as opposed to being caused by forces above the surface, such as wind. Scientists still are examining the data to determine the exact cause of the signal. InSight's first readings carry on the science. I lost my place. Here we go. Carried on the science that begin with NASA's Apollo missions, said InSight Principal Investigator Bruce Bernard at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. We've been collecting background noise up until now, but this is the first event officially kicks off a new field, Martian seismology. The new seismic event was too small to provide solid data on the Martian interior, which is one of the main objectives. The Martian surface is extremely quiet, allows SIS, the InSight specially designed seismometer, to pick up faint rumbles. In contrast, Earth's surface is quivering constantly from seismic noise created by oceans and weather. An event of this size in Northern California would be lost among dozens of tiny crackles that occur every day. So 128 event is exciting because its size and longer duration fit the profile of moonquakes that were detected on the lunar surface during the Apollo mission. NASA's Apollo astronauts installed 5 seismometers. I get it. That measured thousands of quakes while operating on the moon between 1969 and 1977, revealing seismic activity on the moon. Different materials can change the speed of seismic waves or reflect them, allowing scientists to use these waves to learn about the interior of the moon and model its formation. NASA currently is planning to return astronauts to the moon by 2024, laying the foundation that will eventually enable human exploration of Mars. See here, this goes into some detail. SIS has surpassed the team's expectations in terms of sensitivity. The instrument was provided for InSight by the French Space Agency's Central National des CNES. First seismic events were identified by InSight's Marsquake service team, led by the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. We are delighted at this first achievement and are eager to make many similar measurements with SIS in the years to come, said Charles Yana, SIS Mission Operations Manager at CNES. JPL manages the InSight for NASA's Science Mission Directorate. InSight is part of NASA's Discovery program managed by the agency's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. Lockheed Martin and Denver built the InSight spacecraft, including its cruise stage and lander and support spacecraft operations for the mission. Next up is messenger data suggests Mercury hides a huge core, metallic core that is. A solid metallic core nearly as large as Earth might be lurking deep within the solar system's smallest planet. That's according to new research based on data gathered by NASA's Mercury surface, space environment, geochemistry, and ranging or messenger mission. Boy, talk about getting an anagram out of that. That spacecraft spent 4 years circling the tiny planet before intentionally crashing on Mercury's surface. Now scientists have used data from near the end of the probe's mission to peer deeper than ever into the planet. Every new bit of information about our solar system helps us understand the larger universe, said Antonio Genova, lead author in the new research and an assistant professor at the Spinoza University of Rome, said in a statement. Those variations cause the spacecraft to speed up or slow down just a hair and are the result of patches of the planet that are more or less dense than average. They are particularly detailed near the end of the spacecraft's mission when engineers sent the probe as close as 65 miles above the planet's surface. Finding that information, scientists could build a detailed model of the tiny planet and then play around with variables like the size of the solid inner core and compare the results with reality. That modeling suggested that Mercury should have a solid inner core and that this core should be quite large. In fact, their most compelling model setting featured a solid inner core of 1,260 miles. That's about half the size of Mercury's entire core, which takes up about 85% of the planet. Even by terrestrial standards, it's huge. Earth's solid inner core is about 1,500 miles wide. Research is described in a paper published March 15th in the Journal of Geophysical Research Letters. And finally, a historic launch site might be decommissioned later this year. Russia may soon decommission its most historic launch site from which the world's first satellite, Sputnik, was wafted into space. Site number 1, known as Gagarin's Start, is located at the Baikonur, Kazakhstan. I'll get it right. Sputnik was the first spacecraft to lift off from this site on October of 1957, followed by the first human space flight in April of 1961 by Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin. Many other historic missions have also launched from site number 1, including Soviet cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova, who became the first woman to fly in space in June of 1963, as well as Scott Kelly's record-breaking stay aboard the International Space Station. It's possible that site number 1 will be decommissioned sometime after the final flight of the Soyuz FG vehicle in September. The crewed launches of the Soyuz MS-13 and Soyuz MS-15 spacecraft in July and September, respectively, will be the final flights of the Soyuz FG vehicle, according to Ars Technica. Reports suggest the launch site will be decommissioned due to a lack of funding for upgrades needed to launch the Soyuz 2 rocket. Site number 1 was already reconfigured for launches of Soyuz FG rocket, which was introduced in 2001 and is used today to fly crews to the space station. However, cargo launches have already moved to the new Soyuz 2 rocket, and it's expected that cruise launches will move to the newer rocket too, according to Ars Technica, based on the report by NRIA Novosti. Compared with the 6.9-ton payload capacity of the Soyuz FG booster, the Soyuz 2.1B has a payload capacity of 8.2 tons to low Earth orbit. Currently, the Soyuz 2 rocket launches from Site 31 in Baikonur, as well as from 2 other launch facilities in Russia and Europe's Guiana Space Center in French Guiana. So that's it from me. I'll send this back to Net Control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is KFI-PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Since it looks like we have a couple more minutes, Tom, could I prevail upon you just one more time to give us maybe a couple of visible satellite passages that we could see over the next couple of days? This is KFI-PDS to KE5ICX.
Yeah, I guess I can. There's only a few good ones. I was kind of surprised that there were so few, but the International Space Station does have one on April 29th. Let me get that information up here real quick. I put it on the stream, but it's just not doing real well on the stream tonight for some strange reason. So April 29th has a great pass, minus 3.9 magnitude, so it's the brightest thing you can see in the sky at night, exception of maybe the moon. Out of the southwest, it rises at 48 degrees at 10:19, reaches its highest point at 10:20 at 83 degrees, so it's coming out of shadow and into light at the northwest, and then it falls at 10:23:28 to the northeast. Now, if I look at the chart itself, it'll show me the pass, which I'm doing, and yeah, indeed, that's exactly what happens. As it passes Libra, it reveals itself through the constellation Hercules, passes Cepheus, and then into Cassiopeia, falls to the northeast. The only other reasonably good pass is the Tiangong-2. That's the Chinese space station, which is currently in orbit. I need to do a thing on that to find out if anybody's actually been at it. The Chinese have a tendency to be rather secretive of their space programs, or let us know at the very last minute what's going on. But that is the second space station that they have lofted into orbit. And it's been in space now for about 2 years, maybe 3. It has one pass on May 2nd here in the Dallas area. It's a 1.0 magnitude at 10:46 a.m. out of the west-southwest. It reaches its highest point at 10:48 at 82 degrees, and then it falls to the north-northwest at 10:51. So that should be a nice, healthy, almost directly overhead pass. And it shows, indeed, it passes through Serpens, Hercules, Lyra, Cygnus, and past Lacerda, and then through Andromeda. So those are really the only 2 really good passes. Many of the others that we typically chart, there's about 7 different satellites that we look at through heavens-above.com, had either no passes or very low passes. And so that's it for me. Back to you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX.
Thanks. That's what you think. I'm going to prevail upon you one last time. If you will see if we have any last check-ins, and then if you'll get me a count for this evening's net, then we will wrap it up. Again, this is KF5PDS to KE5ICX.
Okie dokie. This is KE5ICX and net control for alternate net control for tonight's Skynet. I'll take any final check-ins if you've been listening in, like to make yourself known so that we know that you've been listening to the net. That would be nice. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. This is final call.
This is November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Allen.
All right, when looking through my cheat sheets here, I don't see this previous check-in. I've got Wayne, November 5, Whiskey Delta. Wayne, did I get your call? No, I probably did not. Can you give me your full call, please, again, Wayne? You were real light into the repeater. I'll try and then listen a little better. I lost you again. You dropped out at the same point. Try one more time there, Wayne. think I still had trouble. Can anybody relay Wayne's call for me? I'm just not picking him up quite. I'm sorry, Wayne. I tried. My hearing's not the best in the world. I can't get a relay, but I've got a spot for you in here. Well, maybe after the net. N5WOI, William and Alan. I got you. So that's a total of 23 check-ins, Miss Billy, from KE5ICX. Go ahead, station.
SIVBO, I got November 5.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net. Okay, the announcement covered you over. One more time.
KI5VBO, what I got was November 5 Whiskey Delta, which does come back to a Wayne on QRZ.com.
All right, thank you. So it was correct. I heard correct. I wasn't sure. N5WD. All right, very good. That's 23. So I'll send it back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. So I copied that tonight we had 23 hams participating on the air. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful Internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5PDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:30 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And don't forget, after this net, stay tuned for Afterglow Movie Net, where we'll be discussing the 2018 movie Anon. So 7-3, everybody.
Back about 5 minutes for the Afterglow Movie Net. So do what you need to do, and we'll be back in 5.
everybody want to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Afterglow movie net. Please come now. Hey, this is Whiskey Bravo 5 Oscar Zulu Lima. Welcome to the Afterglow net. Tonight's movie is the 2018 movie called Anon, A-N-O-N. And go ahead, Tom.
Okay, Miss Brenda, boy, can't get enough of being on the air this evening. Lucky me. Let's see. This is from my research company called Wikipedia. Look them up sometime. They're great. Anon is a 2018 British science fiction thriller film directed and written by Andrew Nicol and financed by Sky Cinema Original Films. Stars Amanda Seyfried and Clive Owen with Colm Feore, Mark O'Brien, Sonia Walker, Joe Ping, and Ido Goldberg appearing in supporting roles. Set in the futuristic world where privacy and anonymity does not exist, no longer exists, the pilot follows troubled detective Owen, who comes across a young woman, Seyfried, who has evaded the government's transparency system. The film was released internationally as a Netflix original on a streaming service from May 4th, 2018, whilst in the United Kingdom and Ireland. The film was released in cinemas by Altitude Film Distribution and through On Demand by Sky Cinema on May 11th in 2018. The plot synopsis is relatively short, so here it is. In the modern world where advanced biosyn implants mean everyone is subjected to a relentless visual stream of information they call the mind's eye, privacy and anonymity as we know them have vanished. With everyone's personal information on public display and each person's life recorded down to the millisecond, personal information is downloaded to a vast grid called the ether, a database which law enforcement can access and use to prosecute criminals. Sal Friedland is faced with a series of shocking murders which appear to be linked. Police find themselves unable to identify the killers. It soon becomes apparent that what the murders have in common signals a major breakdown in the system on which society has come to rely. As he delves into the case, Freeland encounters a woman who seems to have no identity. Something he initially assumes is a minor glitch becomes the first clue that security of the mind's eye has been compromised, sending Freeland into a mission where he acts as bait to trap someone who effectively does not exist before they kill again. Well, that was written rather interestingly. I think it needs a couple of commas, too. Back to net control. This is KE506.
Alrighty, well, let's take some check-ins. We will come first with low power and short time. Give us your call sign, your name, your location, and very importantly, whether or not you saw the movie. You don't have to have seen it to participate. You can always put in your 2 cents worth, but we would like to know. So, short time, low power, please come now. Alrighty, none heard, so let's move on to general check-ins. Please come now.
Kilo Golf 5, Zombies Need Jobs, Frank in Flower Mountain. Yes, I saw the movie, but I think it's being erased from my memory as we speak.
Kilo India 5, Echo Bravo Oscar, Michael in Plano. And yes, I saw the movie.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville. Yep, I saw it too.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J near Weatherford, and yes, I saw it.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, James, Fort Worth. I saw the movie.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Tango Sierra Kilo, Burl and Dallas. I did see the movie.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom in Irving, Holly and I just finished the movie.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas, yes, I saw it.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. I did not get a chance to see the film.
November 5, Alpha Bravo Alpha, Andre in Dallas. Did not get to see the movie, but I'll be monitoring in the background.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's a pretty long list to catch up. We might have had a couple of doubles, although they may have come back a few seconds after that. So if I don't call your name, come back with it, and we'll catch you up. We got KG5 ZNJ Frank, KI5EBO Michael, KE5ICX Tom, KG5BZWJ, N5HYP Tom, W5EBB David, KF5TSK Burl, KF5PDS Billy, N5ABA Andre. Do we have any Echolink check-ins?
This Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, James, Fort Worth. I saw the movie.
I think we got Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, James. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is James, Fort Worth. I saw the movie. KG5PM in.
Go ahead and get started. This is a good group. So we're going to start with the plot. And Frank, you get the first word in. KG5ZNJ. Go ahead.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Zulu November, Juliet. Anon. Yeah, I think I liked it better the first time I saw it when it was called Black Mirror. That's my David Spade joke. It was like a Black Mirror episode, if you're familiar with that show. Very similar to that. So you have an alternate universe where, and I call it an alternate universe because it's advanced yet backwards, so it doesn't exist. So it's alternate universe. Everybody dresses in drab color tones. They drive late 70s, early 80s cars for some reason, yet they're very advanced. It's nothing but brutalist architecture everywhere, which I kind of like it. I don't know why. Maybe it's just nostalgia where I grew up. That was very big in Canada back in the day, and I haven't seen it since. And then people have their smartphones surgically shoved right up their brains. And somehow their smartphones control their every thought and everything they see, apparently. And there's zero privacy. So that kind of, the theme was kind of cool. I kind of like that. However, it's a story about a serial killer who's figured out how to hack these devices and change people's perceptions as well as their memories. And that was kind of interesting. And also the theme of no privacy in a digital world, that was kind of cool too. But there was some big holes in the stories. They tried to basically paper those over with a whole lot of visual style and a lot of nudity. And the biggest hole in the story was how they could figure out who this killer was, or they thought. And they didn't just grab and arrest this girl at least 2 or 3 times when they easily could have. I mean, she was right there with them. And somehow they just let her walk away, and it's like they're running after her shooting. Well, they could have grabbed her any time, so that didn't make any sense at all. That really kind of threw a wrench in it. And then at the end, they did the surprise ending. So it's actually a different serial killer, and it was a cheap gimmick, kind of like, ta-da, we got you. And it was almost like a Scooby-Doo unmasking. So I don't know. I didn't like the story. There was too many holes in it for me, and just a lot of gimmicks. But it was still kind of cool, I guess. And that's all I got to say right now. KG5ZNJ. Back to net control.
Okay, thanks. KI5EBO. Michael, go ahead.
Well, I watched it this evening, and I actually liked it. I thought it was an interesting idea. It was kind of funny. I mean, the first thought I thought was, talk about information overload, ads and statistics for everything you see right in your face. Of course, I guess at that point you don't actually have to remember anything. You just look at something. After the first murder and that 66 Coronado came around the corner, I was like, oh, wow. They dragged up some of those. Well, apparently they modified them and made them run on hydrogen. But then I realized that was the standard default cop car. So, but still, I liked it. I was curious about why all of the cars were replicas of old, mentioned 60s, 70s cars. Anyway, one of the things that did strike me was that everybody seemed awfully calm. All the cops, the detectives sitting around their big conference table seemed awfully calm and stoic. Maybe it's that British stiff upper lip thing, when a fundamental part of their life was being manipulated right out from under them. And he was just very deadpan about the whole thing. Cop at the hacker art act is going undercover with the hacker. That doesn't seem like it makes sense. He's chasing her, and now he's going undercover to catch her. But yeah, that one I didn't have. I don't know. Although I did really love the line where it says, "Are you sure you're not seeing things?" Of course I'm effing seeing things. That's the whole point. I laughed really good. And as far as who turned out to be the bad guy, I was suspicious it was him. I don't know why. It was just something about the pretty boy that he had to be it. But I don't understand whether there's supposed to be some meaning at the end of it, the way they wrapped it up. It's just like, what? Maybe it's a British thing. I don't know. Anyway, KFI VBO, back to net.
Hey, K5ICX. Tom, go ahead.
This is KE5ICX. Boy, everybody said all the good stuff, so I'm only stuck with the less good stuff. So, I don't know. Yeah. One of the things that I think is always fascinating, what I always enjoy with certain films is, and it all started with, I think, Blade Runner, with the the gumshoe story and how do you find your person, in this case, killer, a serial killer, in fact, and using the technologies that are available to you, but then having to come up with some sort of, functions that, using the tools that are available to you in ways that are clever and otherwise useful. I thought that was okay. I think they may have taken it a little too far, maybe a little too much of the techno-babble going on of sorts going with it. The one thing that I noticed, though, is that, and Frank brought it up with that neo-industrial minimalistic stuff that went along with it, and realizing that, part of telling the story is the environment that you create. Maybe that has to do with the set decoration. I don't know. But it was very weird watching this thing and realizing there's nothing around. There's no pictures on any walls. There's no screens that we've come to used to. It's all in their mind's eye. And so it creates, and then their personality, as this was mentioned, becomes kind of this neutral thing. The whole world is neutral. And until, of course, you get all that overlay stuff that shows up, and then you're constantly bombarded by all sorts of information, like from everything you eat to everything that you're doing. And I was just wondering, in our society, obviously, and this movie isn't that old, it is directly reflecting our society as it is today. So easy to get information, so easy to put things together. So it was fascinating to me to watch that and see it to the next degree, because we'll probably get to that point. We're almost there with Google Glass and all that, and being able to have instant information. What does that do to you ultimately? We know, and I don't want to get too metaphorical or pensive about it, but we have changed because of that. Let me reset. We explore and discover things. We go to the internet. We find the information out. We sometimes, if you're really interested, you'll dig deeper. You'll find facts that contradict one another, but then you'll go and find a way of reconciling that. Or some people don't even do that. They just stop. They get the answer that they think they want, and they move on. In this case, it was a little methodical. They went about trying to get the information that they needed along the way. I don't want to go too long, but I think that the idea of people acting the way that was suggested by Michael and Frank, I think that probably could be the truth. I think that and in the plot, it's more subdued, at least until the very end. It's either that or bad acting or a bad story. I don't know which. I kind of like to go with the idea that that's the way they became. KE5ICX.
I would like to point out that Sal did have a picture on his wall, and for some reason they never explained. He stood in front of it whenever he communicated with his wife, and it was like a TV screen, but it was a picture. They never did explain that. I kind of wondered about it. Okay, next up, KG5BZWJ.
This is KG5BZW. Well, yeah, that TV screen thing, I always kind of figured that it was just kind of basically a video overlay, or mind's eye overlay over the mirror image, which, the eyes your eyes were the eyes to see yourself in the mirror, and that would provide the, mind's eye Skype connection or whatever, FaceTime, whatever. But anyway, I'm going to say this. I really like the world building, and even Tom pointed out something about, everybody did, how it was kind of, there's just a kind of a minimalist style to everything. Well, let's just think about it. If we actually had, like, if I'm a little bit messy at home, but if I really had that many things in front of me, it'd be like a Windows 8. Well, how to explain it? The overlay, just overlay overload. If I actually had that many things in front of me that need to be explained, and presuming there's some sort of AI that has to decide which thing to explain. Well, I don't know. They didn't really explain that, but still, yeah, I could see how that's something I didn't even realize about the film. That kind of makes sense now. That some others have commented on it. Let me reset. Okay, so I really did like the world building, the plot. I don't know. I liked how it started. I liked how it progressed. I didn't really like how it ended. Yeah, I had some suspicion it was the new hacker they were using to train. Once it was revealed that Amanda Seyfried's character wasn't the actual serial killer, well, I can't even remember the exact progression of stuff, but I don't know. It just seemed hurried up at the end, and almost like they ran out of, I hate to say it, ran out of money to go through and stuff. But it was a little bit more planned than that. But yeah, I kind of agree with some of the statements that there were a few holes. I just some stuff that I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't say they were holes. I'm not going to say they were holes, but I thought they glossed over a few things that which they could have explained a little bit more. But it was already an hour 40 minutes long. It's not like you want to spend too much time in this world. It was a decent length film for what it was trying to do. So I guess I can't complain there. There was something else. No, I'm gonna let somebody else speak. This is KG5BGW. Back to net.
Hey, N5HYP, Tom and Company. Go ahead.
Hey, good evening, Brenda. This is N5HYP, and actually, greetings to everybody else on the net. Just watched the movie. It was interesting. It was different. It was an interesting look at what could happen in a society where everybody knows everything and the authorities, in theory, know everything about everybody, and how becoming anonymous could be threatening to that society. And you saw that with the reaction of the police commissioner in the movie, because the realization that being anonymous is more of a crime than being a murderer. One of the earlier commenters talked about what he thought was a plot hole, that they didn't realize, that he couldn't figure out how they actually realized that these murders were actually caused by the this anonymous woman, or thought they were at least. But Holly mentioned the fact, when I asked the same question in the movie, she says, "Oh, the maid saw her in the room, in the mirror." And so when they were looking at what the maid saw, the images that the maid saw, that's how they figured out that it was the same anonymous woman that the other officer had seen on the street. It was a little bit on the risque side, way too adult. I wouldn't recommend it for teens. Yeah, it was a very tense, very interesting movie as for what it was. Back to that, N5 HYP.
Okay, W5EBB, David.
This was a good movie. It's from the same writer-director as Gattaca, so it was on firm ground for me. And it could really be set in the near future. You know, the technology is there, as is the informational database. We just need to implement infant retinal microchipping, and, you know, we're pretty much there. You know, they had the targeted ads, you know, and we're certainly there. They appear right in front of us every time we pick up our phone or tablet. And about 5 minutes into the movie, I had a strange craving for a domestic beer. The brand Stevie Winwood probably would like. Let's see, there are parallels with the Matrix, of course, but the difference is here, Matrix and the reality are blended and combined. Or is it all the Matrix? You know, Anon could project anything into another person's mind's eye, so it's hard to say. The way the police operate is reminiscent of Minority Report, but instead of making use of precogs, the police act as postcogs based on review of visual evidence from the ether from all available points of view, and they act as a judge and jury. You know, the evidence is obvious and it's factual and truthful, so the verdicts are easy, unless the evidence has been tampered with or replaced with alternative footage, of course. Now, speaking of ether, now, don't we know from the Michelson-Morley experiment in the early 1900s there is no ether? Not the moving kind, at least. I don't know. W5EBB.
Okay, KF5TSK, Merle, go ahead.
This is KF5TSK. Well, the thing that hit me about this movie was I enjoyed it, but it seemed like the police were so rigid in how they operated. Sal Freeman, my first impression was, you know, he was a good clerk. I mean, people came in and made their complaints, and, you know, if there was a crime, you know, he took care of it. You know, he was just there to kind of serve the public, and seemed like there was a lot really expected of him. You know, the thing that was, I think, different, no computers, no written records, no files. You know, even when they were looking at what Anna was looking at, even herself, you know, they didn't bother to take a picture of it. It's kind of like, you know, we need to do this, or I guess as someone said that it was as though someone put a cell phone in everyone's head, and, you know, all of these data streams went to this database, and no one could figure out, you know, who was accessing the database. And it was like they couldn't turn it off either because, you know, it was just wide open, and there was, it was not only the information, but, you know, it's like they could retrieve thoughts, but they could also send thoughts that they, well, could be, you know, detrimental. You know, the thing that bothered me about it is like, you know, everyone has access to your thoughts. I mean, it's like someone's doing something for you, and it's taking more than 10 minutes. And I mean, you're just really upset. And I don't know, you know, how you can reconcile that world where everyone is thinking or can hear thoughts of everyone else. can we really live together? Because, it's like, well, you played your music too loud, and, well, I like to hear my music loud. And the thing that, was unusual to me is everyone valued their personal records. And it's like, Sal Freeland lost all of his records because Anna supposedly erased all of them. So, he was still trying to get that back, Well, I have the memories, but I'd like to have my records back. KF5TSK back to net.
Okay, KF5PDS, Billy. I know you didn't see the movie, but do you have anything to add?
Yeah, good evening, Brenda. Yeah, I do. And I'm sorry I didn't get to see it before the net, but I might set aside some time tomorrow or in the very near future to watch it because it does sound interesting. And I do like the retro futuristic stuff myself too. And Andrew Niccol, yeah, I loved Gattaca. And he also wrote and directed another movie that I really enjoy called In Time, which I think would be another good one for us to discuss, where time becomes currency. And people are, spending their, things cost time. So I think it's a very interesting concept. So I like Andrew Niccol's stuff because he really does thought-provoking things. And he also wrote and co-produced The Truman Show, which also questions your place in the world and your existence. And so he does all of these movies that explore all these social and cultural issues and exploring reality and, I guess, your place in it. And so it sounds like to me that, this movie does it, to the cool tech extreme. And I don't know, I think Ether might be short for Ethernet because, Ethernet can be used for area networks, and it sounds like this is just the widest area network you could have if it's the whole planet. And it's like, is it the whole planet or is it just cities? Are there other anons out there and, that kind of forming an anti-network? Just makes you wonder. It sounds very thought-provoking. And also, I guess the world becoming very, drab. Like Jay was saying, if you've got all these overlays, I liked the overload expression that he used because, yeah, you would have so much going on from your mind's eye that you don't need anything feeding to the external. And I also like the idea, I think the concept somebody said the mirror provided a kind of FaceTime was an interesting play because, you see your own face in the mirror. And so, yeah, we kind of FaceTime with ourselves when we look at ourselves in a mirror. So I'm very interested in seeing this film. So those are just some things that I can think of, and keep me in the loop because I may have more comments depending upon what others say. So again, I'm enjoying. Oh, one thing that my mom pointed out, I read her the plot, and she kind of questioned, she said, they're going to get all of that into 100 minutes. And so we kind of questioned, whether or not they could pack all those complex things into so short a time frame. It sounds like it should have been maybe about a half hour longer to stretch things out and give things the room and maybe not just gloss over and rush through things. But even though some folks have commented about that, it still sounds interesting to watch. So I'll return it to you. This is KF5PDS, back to net.
N5ABB, I'm sorry, ABA, Andre, do you have any comments?
N5ABA. No, unfortunately, I did not see the movie, but according to all the comments I'm hearing, I definitely will be watching this one. It seems very interesting. So, good evening to you and everybody on the net. Thank you for having me. This is N5ABA.
Okay, KG5PMN, James.
KG5PMN. I had a hard time, kind of have a hard time with this movie. I was watching it on small screen, so I missed a lot of the details with the video stuff, or with what they saw and what the replay back was about the different various people they were looking at. One thing I read in some of the synopsis on it was that your eyes were turned into a camera, and everything that you saw was recorded, and other people could, play it back, and the cops were hoping this would wind up and eliminate some crime, but other people were seeing what you were doing, and the police detective thought otherwise and thought that the crime was increasing, and that's evidently how they were getting onto this one person, and the unidentified murderer. But just kind of had a little bit of hard time following some of the characters in it. KG5PMN, back to the net.
Hey, well, it's my turn now. Well, I love this movie. It was just riveting. I sat on every word and watched it, and it was fascinatingly crafted. The clothes, everything they put thought into it to create a feeling or a mood or a society. Having said that, plot holes. I often forget my neighbor's name or my best friend's name. The mind is not a great retrieval system. So how are you going to go after somebody when you go, oops, and you go after the other guy instead by accident, because our brains are so fallible. And how do you single out the one scene you want to see versus, picking out his clothes and going to the grocery store and eating and all the mundane things that you do? I'd like to know that. And also what happens when you sleep. They don't talk about that. Or when you are unconscious or in a coma or under anesthesia. Fortuitously, all of the murder victims died. What if they had lived long enough to talk? How would that have worked out? It would be an interesting addition to the plot. Of course, I can't read my notes. You were kept pretty busy just spying on one person. What would a police officer's caseload be? How many people would he have to be watching at one time? And how would that work? A lot of this stuff just isn't answered, and I hate to be picky-uni, but it's something I kept thinking of throughout the movie is all these issues. It reminded me a lot of that TV series called Person of Interest. It had James Caviezel, and was really a good show. It had the same little boxes around the heads. And also this made me think a lot about Blade Runner, just the look and feel and the premises. Alrighty, anybody want to check in now? We're going to talk about characters. We're going to start back at the top. KG5ZNJ. Frank, what do you think?
KG5ZNJ. Well, the characters, we could start with the police. I can go back to what Tom said about, instant information and instant gratification and, what does it really do to you? I think it makes you lazy and stupid, quite frankly, over time. And I kind of worry about that, about the world. But you saw it in this movie with the police when their fancy technology gets totally nullified by this hacker, and they find themselves completely unable to solve the case. Like, they don't know how to do it the old-fashioned way, so they have to all sit in a room and try to figure it out, and it's just very difficult for them. But the main character, Sal, he just, you know, he's deprived of this technology, but he's the smart one, and he has this wonderful idea. He has it all figured out. Guys, give me some hookers. Just go with me. Get me hookers, and fill my bank account full of money. And we'll trap him. You know, like, boy, what a smart guy. Taking one for the team like that. Unbelievable. And then, of course, you know, he couldn't cuff the killer, but he had no problem putting the moves on her. I don't know. So that was the main character of the movie, so I don't know what to make of that, quite honestly. And then you had who we thought was the serial killer. Well, she was... you know, an extremely pretty girl, looked like a supermodel, and she actually did a good job with that character that, you know, she had to work with. She, I don't know, it was kind of just believable. I don't know why, but she did a good job, and her character was actually very interesting. Other than that, I don't really remember any of the other characters. To me, they weren't memorable at all. So I don't even remember the name of his partner or his face, the guy who got shot. I just remember a guy got shot, so I didn't really remember the other characters for whatever reason. So that's all I got to say about the characters. KG5ZNJ.
Okay, KI5EBO, Michael.
Were there characters in this movie? I didn't notice. I'm really terrible with names for people, so I brought up the IMDb thing for this movie. And the cast list is huge. It's like 3 pages long. I guess they had to put in a name for every person that wandered by on the street, which is normally given, kind of, you know, mentioned in the credits. But I don't know. I thought that they were all kind of wooden and there wasn't really much in the way of character development. It was just a lot of people with names over their heads. For me, for the most part. I mean, the story I thought was interesting, but not because of the people in it. The situation that the people were in, and the characters were all kind of like, you know, I don't know, cardboard cutouts for the most part. You know, set them around the table, play some dialogue, and you got a movie. I enjoyed it, but not because of character development. KFI-VBO, back to that.
Okay, K5ICX.
I had a similar problem everyone else did is quickly, I'm trying to figure out what did the characters actually do, what did they add to the story, who was really interesting in the end, and characters is somewhat pedestrian of sorts, I guess. I thought the movie itself was visually fascinating, which is what I really enjoyed about the whole thing more than anything, and the ideas that they brought forth. But the characters themselves, the people in it, weren't overly engaging. I think one of the most poignant scenes, of course, is when our detective, our protagonist, sees that the pictures of his daughter, the movies and everything, are deleted, and it says file missing. And all I could think about is the hard drive that I lost that had pictures of the family or stuff that I needed for Monday morning for work. And I realized, they have, that's pretty tough to go through for the average person when you get all that stuff on the drive. And did you back it up? Well, of course I didn't back it up. I never thought it would fail. So then I got back to the characters again, and I realized I got a problem here. I didn't really have a lot of emotional investment in the characters themselves. I think that was probably the weakest part of the whole thing to me, is that while it was interesting, the characters never really reached any level of super excitement to me or association, something that I could really relate to with the characters, except for that lost hard drive, KE5ICX.
Yeah, the kid existed only in his mind. No photos, no digital things, nothing, nothing sitting around on the piano, which I find a little unbelievable for the future personally, that things would only be in your mind. It's not the way that works. All right, KG5BZWJ.
This is KG5BZW. Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement. The whole thing about the movie is its world. But, I mean, I'm going to take a tangent just because of the fact, they're so... Yeah, I feel like I'm going back to the other segment and saying part two of you know, the plot, world building, whatever. You gotta realize these people are, you know, it's basically a hive mind. This is the this is kind of a equivalent of the Borg, except for in the 21st century. I mean, but people will still have their individual thoughts and everything. So it's more of a confederation, I guess, than whatever the collective. So I guess in a sense it makes sense that everybody's kind of drab and there's not that much personality. There's no real art or stuff like, or things that you would think of, you know, you would actually use your mind, your literal mind's eye, not a microchip implanted whatever. So yeah, you know, it's actually kind of consistent with the story if you want. If you want to get down to it. But yeah, ignoring that, the most emotional attachment we get to is probably the protagonist, Sal, or Saul as he's undercover name, whatever. And yeah, that I like Tom's thoughts on you know, the deletion of files and stuff, that it's like, oh, I need that, and I didn't have a, you know, backup or a way to think of it differently. But back, I guess the only other thought, but just kind of, again, consistent, is I have to admit, when I first saw the you know, killings, well, it is this kind of movie, but I did find it kind of unbelievable that, you know, the way he kills the killer at the end is like, well, why didn't somebody else at least try to close their eyes to begin with? So it's like everybody was kind of stupid. Everybody really was kind of stupid. So, you know, but again, I have to wonder if it's just the whole world just kind of makes them stupid. So I don't know. It's just that kind of thing. KG5BZW, back to net.
HYP, Tom, can you hear me? Okay, looks like he's gone. We'll check back in a minute and see if he's still here. W5EBB, David, go ahead.
Sal, you know, he seemed very comfortable and normal in the, you know, holographic projection of all this data, and, you know, he was pretty proficient with it, and it was interesting to see how discombobulated he became when that data started not appearing the way it was supposed to. And I guess it shows how once you become dependent on the availability of it, how when you lose it, you lose it. And of course, when the false images came up, as anyone, he got really distressed. Now, toward the beginning, I don't know if he said this kind of, in jest, but he mused, what kind of world do we live in when the murderers don't tell us who they are? But he said that pretty literally, it seemed. Well, today, here, the answer in the U.S., that's been the case since 1788. The Fifth Amendment does not require a person to testify against himself or herself in a criminal matter, which always kind of perplexed me. If the goal is to find the truth, and yet the person who's possibly guilty can't say that he might be, that doesn't make sense. That didn't make sense to Sal. Now, the first technical guy who ended up getting killed should have been able to trace through the multiple proxies to the point of origin if he had noticed that the geometric path was in the shape of a Fibonacci spiral. So, he should have been able to figure that out. W5EBB.
Okay, KF5 PSK Burl.
This is KF5 PSK. Well, one of the things I will say is, the movie was named after Anna, and we still know very little about her. We don't know her thoughts. We don't know how she did anything. We don't know what she was working on. It's like, I did these things because I needed money, but it didn't seem like, anyone else really needed any money. Sal seemed to be the main character, but, he seemed to do all the acting, and Anna was just there, that, I can make things appear, disappear, or I can change, the facts of what happened. And also I still would go back to, Sal seemed to have no, police skills that, they didn't do autopsies. They just did pictures of, what they thought happened. They didn't, look at bullets or fingerprints. There were, many times throughout the movies that they would show someone drinking or Anna drinking from a glass, and now we would be trying to do fingerprints and DNA, and did she leave any fibers behind? I mean, we didn't really have any crime-fighting people. It's almost like, we put our faith and trust in the computer. KF5 TSK back to net.
Okay, KF5 PDS Billy.
Now, I don't really have anything to add, so I'll just be listening. KF5 PDS back to
N5 ABB Andre, did you have anything you want to add?
N5HYP.
N5HYP. Tom, go ahead.
I think I wasn't listening when you hit me earlier. Characters, everybody was pretty deadpan, as Burl and several other people have mentioned, but I do believe that if we have no privacy, we, unfortunately become less human. I think you have to have privacy to be able to have a proper sense of emotion And if everybody knows what you think and what you're doing, I think people lose their individuality. Star Trek Next Generation, the collective, the Borg, everybody basically was assimilated, and everybody knew what everybody else was thinking. It was collective thought, and that is really sad, because that's not the way God created us. We were created to be individuals. So if a society ever robs that of us, that will be really much, I think, the end of humanity. And characters acted that way. They didn't really have any real, at least none of them that were depicted had a lot of emotion. I think it was probably a good characterization. It was what was intended for the story. Back to net. This is N5HYP.
Alrighty, and N5ABA, Andre, did you have any comments? Okay, let's move on to KG5PM and James. Go ahead.
This is KG5PM. I agree with them. For the most part, the characters were not really fascinating. I guess the woman was, to me, the most enjoyable character and the most character with the most gumption, and trying to not be able to try and be anonymous and putting all her little bits in thousands or a bunch of other people so that nobody could actually ever see her whole person. The guy, the detective, kind of reminded me of Columbo. He always had the same look, the same dress, and kind of acted the same all the time. The police leadership was kind of like all the rest of the a bunch of the other cop movies, that the leadership doesn't really believe what the street people on the street are telling them in the beginning, and then they finally come around at the end and wake up and realize what the detective on the street is actually telling them is true. KG5PMN, back to the net.
Alrighty, well, I'll take a shot at this. I don't think humanity would stand for this. I know we had, it makes me think of 1984, where you don't have any privacy, and people really wanted privacy. And I think that's certainly the way that I would feel. I would be looking for some way to live in the underground or something. And you just wonder about just random encounters with people. You go up to order your burger at the restaurant, and the person doesn't like the way you ordered, so you can see into his brain, and he can see into yours. I think maybe civility would go away, and people would resort to fistfights. I just think it'd be a horrible, dangerous thing. It's like, would you want to be psychic? No, I wouldn't. I don't want to know what people are thinking about me. I'd rather assume the best. So, okay, do we have any additional check-ins? All right, back to the top. Let's talk about special effects. Frank, KG5ZNJ, go ahead.
KG5ZNJ, I don't recall any special effects, really. I mean, I don't know why I don't remember them. I just remember the architecture, the concrete. So that's all I got. KG5ZNJ.
Okay, KI5EDO, Michael.
Basically, the film was full of special effects. I mean, all of the graphics, all the overlays over reality were all special effects. I originally downloaded the movie earlier in the week, and then I converted it to a lower res so it didn't take up so much space. I started watching it, and it's like, I can't read all this stuff, so I went and re-downloaded the thing again in 1080p. And it was really distracting watching the movie because I constantly wanted to stop it and read everything, but I was running out of time because otherwise I wouldn't have finished before the net started. Other than that, I mean, other than the overlays, these days there's really no telling what is a special effect and what isn't with all of the CGI and generated imagery that's out there and capable of how seamlessly it's blended together with reality. I don't know. It was like I said, the film itself was interesting to me, but the full with personality, the characters weren't. So I guess I like special effects for that reason. KI5EDO back in there.
All right, KE5ICX, Tom, go ahead.
Okay, it's KE5ICX. I'm with Michael. Part of what's interesting about it is, the special effects are there with all the overlays and everything. One of the things I thought about the overlays, which was cool, is exactly what he said. Although what my version didn't have quite the resolution that his did, be able to stop and read all the stuff that was there. And while he was talking, I kind of thought about it, and I realized it's all written down anyway. The people who do all of the continuity, all the people that provide all of the props and materials that are on the set, that stuff's documented. It's documented, it's put out, it's laid out in such a way so that when if they have to come back and strike for the evening and come back the next day or even a week later, everything has to be the same. So, really all you do is take that information, put it in your overlay, an avocado's an avocado, So I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting in a way that material is showing up, and a lot of that had to be put on screen. Everybody walking by, and since it wasn't also a theatrical release, I would imagine that the detail was such that any audience member would be staring at some portion of the screen every time those little thought balloons came up with everything you needed to know. I have a tendency to be a fan of that. I watch for that a lot of times in films, and I really enjoy it. So this falls into the special effects category, I guess, more than anything. But one of the things I enjoy, too, is the inside jokes in that. I'll bet you there may be one or two in there if you look really carefully for them. The other part is, too, is that minimalistic architecture that Frank was talking about earlier. I recognized the little concrete wall thing. Heck, I spent some significant time at one of those facilities at Xerox back in the 70s when that architecture was really popular, and watched a movie there. What the heck was it? The Michael Crichton film where they're in a coma. That's it, Coma. The movie Coma. And the architecture was exactly the same in the building I was watching Coma in. Talk about creepy, that's it. Well, that's what it reminded me of, is the same architecture from Coma. So those things I think were kind of interesting in the scheme of things. Lastly, love the cars, and I guess it was a Tornado. I couldn't tell if it was a Riviera or Tornado. I think it was indeed a Tornado. Then they added some digital effects to it. Great cop car. Great. Probably had cop shocks, a cop engine, and it was several years before catalytic converter, so it ran great on regular gas. KE5ICX.
I ran great except for getting 10 miles to the gallon. K25BZWJ.
All right, this is KG5EZW. Yeah, there was the overlays, of course, but I have to admit, there's a little more than just the overlays. There's the actual, okay, I'm going to hand a file to you. I'm going to grant you permission to see this file, or, video, whatever. I have to admit, it was very, it's one of those things, it's like when you copy-paste or moving files is generally not one of the most appealing things to watch somebody do to move files to a folder or copy a link or something. It was one of those things that historically movies don't really do well. They overdo it, and especially in this film, they still overdo it a little bit, but it was such a minimalist style, and you could see exactly what was going on. I have to admit, I'm kind of impressed with it. I mean, I don't think there's going to be any user interface using the 3D, grid arrangement. I mean, that's been done before too. I think Jurassic Park did it in 1990, and it was a lot cornier. But I kind of have there was some thought put into that, and it's just impressive on its own right. Of course, that's not the only special effects, but I think others have mentioned the real world effects, cars, the architecture. And I think I'll hand it over to the next person. This is KG5BZW. Back to Nut.
Okay, N5HYP, Tom. Oh, he's gone again. We'll circle back. W5EBB David, go ahead.
The special effects are actually kind of integral to the narrative. The first-person point of view and data overlays, because we're looking at the scene, and as we go into the movie, we're not really sure if we're actually seeing the story that's being told, or we're looking through a different person's eyes or a constructed viewpoint. And along those lines, we don't really know how many ghosts, anons, unknowns there are. In this movie, we only know of the one, the girl. We don't know if there are others. At least the movie didn't explore it. Or did it? I think back at the first of the movie, when the man who hadn't heard from his son goes to Sal. Sal accesses the ether and shares the brief video of his son jumping off a building. But is it possible that his son wanted to become an anon, unknown ghost and hired the girl to digitally stage his death? Because we see her down on the street, in a preceding scene. And then perhaps the girl provided him with the algorithm so that he could become an unknown, anonymous ghost and enjoy the rest of his life listening to his extensive vinyl LP collection on his analog record player. W5EBB.
Yes, indeed. KF5TSK Burl.
This is KF5TSK. Well, one of the things that really bothered me was Sal was involved in an accident and got hit both front and back of the car, seemed like all the way around. And yet in another scene, the car was in perfect condition. I thought that was, it's almost like it didn't happen. one of the things about, they kept showing these scenes where these people were shot, and it was almost like they were all on the floor in a pool of blood. I don't think it was that much blood that, you know, would probably be in someone's brain to just, you know, all of it just drain out on the floor. Everything seemed to be, you know, the same. It was almost like, why were they showing, you know, it was like different people, but the same scene. You know, always a big pool of blood around their head. They really didn't spend, you know, any money on it. And, you know, it might have been better not to spend as much time, you know, showing the blood. Maybe that would take away some of the nudity. Can't find PSK back to net.
KF5 PDS, I think you said you were just listening. And N5 ABA didn't answer last time. KG5 PMN James.
Who's KG5 PMN? I thought the special effects, I guess they were okay. They kind of were confusing to me on the small screen that I watched it on. You really couldn't tell where they were flipping back and forth to and from, and along with the dialogue boxes being unreadable, I guess I probably missed out on a lot of it. KG5PMN, back to the net.
Okay, N5HYP, you weren't here. Are you back yet? Okay, well, my comments on special effects, I don't have much to say. So, you know, when you're at the last, everybody's already said everything. I just thought it was a fascinating study that they put a lot of work into it, and it showed. Any other check-ins? Okay, do any of the check-ins want to have a final comment? Please come now with your call sign and name, and we'll go through those in order. Go ahead.
KF5EBO, Michael.
And that last station, I missed your call. What was it again?
KI5EBO, Michael.
Okay, KF5EBO, you have a comment.
It was a couple of clarifications about a couple of comments back. When Saul had that car wreck, if he went back and went through it, you know, like frame by frame, nothing hit the front of his car. It was, he got hit in the rear and it spun the car around and he almost hit the front end on another car, but he didn't. So when they were sitting there after the wreck, they were just showing the front of the car, which didn't have any damage. The back of it was probably really banged up. And the second point was that if you get shot in the head, your heart's going to stop pumping pretty quickly. So most of your blood is going to stay in your body, in your arms, legs, torsos, legs and torso. And there isn't going to be a big pool of blood. You get big pools of blood whenever you get hit in some place and your heart keeps pumping for a while and you exsanguinate. Lovely stuff. There you go. KF5 EBO, back to net.
Anybody else have a parting shot? About the plot. If you have an accident in an intersection, there are four people. This is an old, overworn analogy for people on four corners. You'll get four versions of what happened. So imagine if you all had recordings in your eyes, you would never be mistaken again, nor would your perception be off. And sometimes even things that you see, the way that you perceive it may not be the way that it really happened. I once witnessed a horrible traffic accident. I saw it from my rearview mirror. My perception was that the guy fell out of the car when in fact he was run over as a pedestrian. But my mind was just trying to make sense out of what I was seeing. And I just wonder how that would factor into this kind of a world. Okay, any more comments? This is WB50ZL. Okay then, if KE5ICX will kindly let us know what we're doing next week, I would appreciate it.
I will, Miss Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Well, here we go. Our next film actually is from 1958. And you're going, oh, no, not one of those. Nope, it's not one of those. Westinghouse Theater, The Time Element by Rod Serling. This is what started the Twilight Zone, this particular 90-minute production. So I'll put the list out to everyone. If you'd like to be part of the list, you're listening in, you went, I didn't get to see the movie or any of that, you can send me an email. That's at KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray at yahoo.com. Say you would like to be added to the list, on the email list, and I will send out the information. I usually do it on Sunday morning. This movie, Westinghouse Theater, The Time Element from 1958, a TV movie by Rod Serling. Or, if you'd like, you can join the Facebook group, which is Afterglow Movie. That's two words, Afterglow, and the word movie. And so you want to sign up there, and we keep a list of potential movies and a list of movies 2 weeks into the future. So you'd be able to watch ahead if you'd like. Next week's movie, Westinghouse Theater, The Time Element by Rod Serling, 1958. This is KE5ICX.
Okay, we had 11 participants this evening. I want to thank everybody who came and made wonderful comments. And think we're going, it's almost midnight, so I think we're going to close it down. This is WB5OZL Clear.